To start with, where are we as far as the process of developing this as a proper zone in Gulf Province?
Okay, thank you. The first time we presented this project was back in 2019, and we had a concept, an animation that we presented, and it's a big dream. But what have we done in the last 2.5 years to today? And that's some of the points that we want to discuss and bring to the audience to know what we have done in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the key things is you've got NEC approval for the project, and you've also got some money in the bank to help you develop it. Yeah.
Exactly. We have a presentation that will be available to the audience, in that it basically shows out what we have done. And so, yes, Andrew, you're correct in that it's the first case special economic zone concept in PNG. And as we have heard, His Excellency John Carney from the Prime Minister's and the government's view on special economic zones, that our case is the first such concept to be developed in PNG. And so an act was passed in 2019. And following that, the government approved our project, the NEC approved our project in 2020 and funded us for a total of 100 million for next 5 years. But due to COVID, they've given us almost half of that money. And so last year we received our first funding, 10 million. And we have started a project office, development office, a proper office. We started from 3-man operations to about 30 men now. So we built a capacity for a project office, and we have got that 10 million. And we have spent some of that money to promote the project and to do awareness projects, awareness in the villages, and where the project impact area is, and with the national government and places like this. We've done a lot of awareness in PNG, in Australia, and across the Pacific, and across the Asia to promote the project. And so in that space, we have also picked up interest and increased the funding outside of the national government funding to the next level.
So you've got some foreign direct investment from China, I understand?
Yes, we have attracted through the project almost 81.5 million. We've got 2 programs that are very crucial to us as foundational programs for the project. 2 social impact projects. One is SMEs, and another one is infrastructure development.
Right.
And so through PNG government's Connect PNG program, they've identified critical infrastructures that needs to be developed across PNG, but in our project we are also adapting the same approach. So we have identified 7 critical capital infrastructure programs: roads, port facilities, airports, telecommunications, water, power, a township development. And so those are important infrastructures that we have identified. Our project area is 75 kilometers from Papua LNG project. And Fortescue Future Industries Purari project. So we are within the same space, but there's no infrastructure there. Papua LNG project, FFI project, they are greenfields upstream. Downstream where the PNG LNG project is brownfield. So we are all in that space where there's greenfield. There's no toilet, no nothing on the ground per se today, so we need to build infrastructures. So that's what we are taking on board, and we are looking at building roads. So what we have done is working with the project funding of 10 million. We have worked with our district and worked with the Works Department and other relevant agencies. So we have secured additional funding.
Right.
So we basically built almost like 44 kilometers of road from Kengemar, and it's 90% complete, to Vailala. That's the next big river that we need to cross over to our project site. That's in Ihu. And then there's another 75 kilometers of road that we need to build from that location to Papua LNG project site. That's where we got the funding of 81.5 million, grant funding from China to get that road constructed this year. We've received about another 5 million from the national government to start a road construction from Ihu station down to the coast. That's the coastal ring road. And we've got 5 million, and construction started about 3 months ago. So we've got 2 road constructions happening simultaneously in our project area. Total volume of about 12 million in that space from national government.
So I think you must have been very encouraged by the fact that Papua LNG, the project, has gone into front-end engineering and design this year. Just last month, I think they announced it was actually going in, which means that we're looking at a final investment decision towards the end of next year and a 4 years construction period.
Yes.
Does that give you sufficient, really what we said last time when we talked was, without that project to really help your zone go, it's not really a standalone project on its own. It needs those other projects around it to make it successful.
Exactly. I'm a geologist by profession background. I was the project geologist for the El Catalo project when Interoil was drilling it. So with my experience, I know that these things were going to happen.
Yeah.
So we needed to get into that space and do social infrastructure. So the special economic zone is a development tool for us to bring infrastructure into that space. So that's what we decided to do, and that's what we are doing now. And so the Papua LNG project is the biggest catalyst for us in terms of social infrastructure development. And yeah, that's where we're at now.
So if we fast forward, say 5, 7, 10 years' time, what would the zone look like? What sort of facilities would you have in place there?
Thank you. The biggest facilities that we want to see now is our target right now, the next 5 years, to 2027, when we expect the Papua LNG gas project hopefully to come out with the gas production. We'd like to see roads built.
Right.
We'd like to see airports operational. We'd like to see jetties and port facilities operational. Right now, Papua LNG projects, logistics is basically sea to ship transfer and up the river. But we need infrastructures that will anchor our people into the future. So that's why the Papua LNG project is a catalyst for us to enable us to build those infrastructures that we need. That will be social infrastructure for our people and for socio-economic development and SME growth in the space.
And we raised the issue with Clarence Hoot earlier from the Investment Promotion Authority about what incentives special economic zones will offer. So as far as when you're talking to potential tenants inside the zone, what are you offering them? What are you able to say, well, we can offer you these kind of incentives to come here?
Exactly. I think there's a few speakers before this that were talking about social infrastructure. And that's what we need to focus on now.
Yep.
And incentives had to be geared towards that kind of development. So we're looking at SME space. And if there's companies that want to partner with the SMEs that we have trained and put together, that is going to be affected, the people that will be affected by our project and the Papua LNG project, and also looking at the infrastructure that needs to be built. So companies getting in that space needs to have that incentive so that there's a better business plan and a better business case for companies that are operating within that space, because it's a remote location to start with, and it's a place where not a lot of people would want to go. So we need to provide those incentives in social infrastructure, so people are feeling that they're putting money in the right places and they're getting a return on themselves, the investors and the contractors, but also those people who are putting the funding into that space. Yeah.
So, Peter, what's the next step for the project? What's the next milestone for you?
The next milestone for us, we have a 4-stage project. Phase 1 is basically the concept model and selling the project to the government and testing the appetite for it internationally and locally. I think we have done that.
Yep.
So the next phase for us is basically looking at key infrastructures that we've just discussed. So there's 2 flagship programs that we are running again. Is the SME program, enabling our people to know about the projects and the big programs that are coming to the space, and gearing them and equipping them and tooling them. So we've almost spent about 25% of our funding into SME space. That's about, from the last, if you go through my slides, you'll see that there's about 13.5 million from 2017 to 2023 that we'd be spending, 13.5 million into that space. It's almost over 90.5 million into infrastructure. So that's funding that we have secured outside of the government funding of 10 million that they have given us. I've spent only half of it.
Right.
Elections came up, so we haven't been able to spend the rest of the money, so we are going to spend the money the next half of the year to continue to do the work that we are doing. But we've got almost about 90.7, 90.8 million to go into infrastructure. That's about 70% of the funding that we have secured is going into infrastructure.
Peter, it's a very exciting project, and one that, as Peter mentioned, there is a slide deck which we'll make available to you after this presentation. And if you are interested in getting involved in this very important, pioneering project, really, Peter would be delighted to hear from you, I'm sure. Will you please thank him for joining us today?